Hi, my name is Tazier, and I'll be reading 3 disturbing true horror stories from Reddit. If you enjoy it, please like, and if you don't, feel free to dislike and leave me a comment on what I can improve on. Thank you. Okay, just pay attention. Creepy dude on a bike. For context, I am a 26-year-old male and have a larger build. Not fat, but also not muscular, just have a bigger look to me. I have lived an unusual life and have been through many jiffy situations with people, so I am not frightened easily by odd or wacky people. I can also defend myself pretty well in a fight. I live in a city with pretty bad crime and work on a sketchy side of town. While not the most crime-filled, it is still sketchy, and you get shady people once in a while. I am also a fan of dark life, so I love walking at night and do not get scared easily. I work a second shift job, and it is my duty as one of the supervisors to lock the gates after the sun goes down, and all the day shift people are gone. Our work is enclosed within a fence that has barbed wire on top. Just a few days ago, I was walking to close the gate. I was coming from the far side of the parking lot after throwing something away in the dumpster. As I was walking to the gate, I could see a strange man on a bike. It was dark and cold out at this time of the year at 8 p.m., so I found it odd to see a man that was at least 30 to 40 on a bike. But I carried on, as it could be a man going to work or leaving work who doesn't have a car. As I continue to walk, I see he is now doing circles in the road at the end of the littered driveway that leads to the fence. Now, my guard is up as this is strange to me. As I reach the fence, he has now set down the bike and is looking at me and walking towards me. He is shaking like I have seen many people on drugs before. I'm still not super worried, as like I said, I have dealt with many shady people before. I close one side of the gate quickly and rush to the other side, swinging it closed. The gate is locked by a chain and a padlock, so I grab both sides of the chain. Before I can get the padlock in, though, the man sticks his hand through the fence and grabs me by the shirt. At this point, I yell, "Get the fuck off of me before I beat your ass." As it was, I was holding the fence closed with the chains while he grabbed me and yelled, "I'll fucking kill you." The only thing going through my mind was how I was going to get the upper hand on this dude, and if I should fight him or wrap the damn chain around his neck. I was fortunate, and a police officer just turned the block as this was going down, and flipped his lights on, and quickly took the man down and cuffed him. While the man was in the car, he questioned me and got a statement, and I was on my way. So, to the druggie who wanted to kill me, even though I know I'll run into more, one way or another, let's not meet again. Stay safe out there, y'all. Homeless man let himself into our house with the key he found left in the door. I'm not a big storyteller, so this may not be super interesting. Last week, my wife came home from work around 8 p.m. She had her hands full of bags of soiled rags she uses for work, and when she unlocked the door, she forgot her key in the door. We live in a rural mountain community, so it gets pretty quiet at night. At around 2 a.m., I got up to get some water from the kitchen. When filling up my glass, I heard my door cam chime alert to movement, but did not think anything of it because it was very windy and the motion sensor was sensitive. As I finished filling my glass and began to go upstairs, I could hear the front door open and the wind outside. I live in a 3-story house. The kitchen is on the 2nd floor, the bedroom's on the 3rd, and the 1st floor is like 700 square feet game room we use for storage. I second-guessed what I heard, but then I heard the door distinctively close. There was a lot of junk on the 1st floor because, as I said, we use it for storage. I heard someone stumble over some stuff, and I immediately ran to the top floor bedroom and told my wife to get our 2-year-old daughter and lock the door behind her, then call 911. I got my Mossberg from my closet and went downstairs. When I got to the middle floor, I looked down the stairwell that made a 90-degree turn halfway, so I couldn't see directly to the first floor. I did see a flashlight beam bouncing, though. At this point, I imagine I had not been heard because there was still movement. I wasn't wearing shoes, so I was able to get down the stairs quietly. When I reached the bottom, I turned the corner and scanned the room with my shotgun and flashlight. At this point, I heard a large crash from behind the storage space beneath the stairs. I rounded the corner and trained the light onto a scrawny man in tattered clothing. He looked like he was in his mid-40s, gaunt-faced with a sharp chin. His hair was oily, matted, and gray. His face was clean-shaven, and his eyes struck me because they were piercing blue and looked animal. He was startled to have a shotgun pointing at him. He was perched precariously on top of a pile of boxes and Christmas decorations, in a sort of half-squat to avoid hitting his head on the sloped ceiling. He put his hands up and said nothing. I said nothing. We kind of just stood there staring at each other for a few seconds. He asked me not to shoot him, and I told him to put his hands up and slowly walk out. I backed him up and held him at gunpoint. When he was out of the storage room, I told him to get on the ground, knowing the police were on their way. At this point, he made a break for the door and took off into the night. I would have shot him if he had moved towards me, but he made a break for the opposite direction, and I let him go. That's the decision I made. I have never been in this situation, and I was surprised at how fast everything happened. Deputies showed up 10 minutes later, and they never found the guy. My wife's keys were still on the door, and our camera showed her leaving them there. Always good to double check. What are the odds? This happened a few years ago when I was about 15 years old. It was a pretty common occurrence at the time for my family and the family of my 2 best friends to go out for dinner. During one such time, my best friends and I decided that it would be more adult and cool for us to sit away from the rest of our family and to just eat and chat at a separate table. We were a couple of young teens having a fun time. That's when one of my friends, Jenny, whispered that the guy sitting at the table next to us seemed to be staring at me. I slightly turned my head and realized that he did seem to be looking my way, but brushed it off. I mean, we were at a restaurant. People looking around seemed normal and innocent enough. As time progressed, my other friend, Gabby, also noticed the man staring at me, and we began to get more concerned. He had seemed to finish his food a long time ago, but just continued to sit there watching us, especially me. The man seemed to be in his 30s, and his expression was starting to creep the 3 of us out, but we decided not to do anything in case it was just us overthinking. Eventually, the man did pay and leave, and we felt relieved. But as soon as I took my first bite of food, Jenny motioned to me frantically. We were sitting by a window, and as it turns out, the man had left the restaurant, but he hadn't fully left the premises. He was actually standing below the window, continuing to stare at me. At this point, we realized this wasn't normal behavior, but we also didn't want to alert our families and cause a scene. So we kept eating, but kept our attention on the window. By the time we were done with food and our bill had been paid, the man was still outside. We were worried he would try something, so we stayed close to our dads on the way out. He followed us as we walked to our cars from a distance, but eventually changed direction and left. The whole ordeal was super creepy to us, but we let it go because, well, it was over, or so we thought. 3 months later, the three of us decided to visit the busy downtown area of our city for fun. We were standing on a corner, trying to figure out where to go next when I felt Gabby tapping my shoulder. At first, I didn't respond, but when she continued, I looked up, and I felt my heart stopped. It was the same guy from the restaurant. The restaurant had been nowhere near where we were currently standing, yet somehow, by sheer coincidence, we would run into him again, in a city of huge population. The guy made eye contact with me, and I could tell he recognized us. We immediately walked as fast as we could, and he started to follow, but after a few minutes, he eventually did lose him. We tried to then continue on with our plans, and did end up having a good time, all things considered. However, just when we decided to head back home, we ran into the guy and one of his friends again. This time, we were really freaked out. He spotted us again, and this time him and his friend followed us. Gabby told us maybe he wouldn't come after us if we went into a makeup store. We tried that, but nope. They walked right inside after us. At this point, Jenny was ready to call the cops, but we decided to try and lose them one last time by ducking into a toy store. We stayed in the store for a while and kept an eye outside. They walked back and forth for a few minutes looking for us. But eventually, they left the area, and we decided now was the time to make our move and leave. This time, we lost them for good, but the whole ordeal was beyond stressful. The three of us never told anyone else what happened. I still don't know what he wanted from me, or what could have happened if he caught up to us, but I'm glad I haven't seen this guy since. All these years later, my friends and I think back to this incident, and still think about how crazy the odds were to meet the same creep more than once in completely different random places. To the creep who stalked me and my friends, let's never meet again.